AI is a very, very effective tool. It is what makes us great today in terms of our technology. Leaning into the reality of what it takes to effectively implement AI within your business. My job is predominantly organizing human energy. If you don't have structure in place, there's nothing for someone to come in and clean onto. This is something that people would really pay for if we could work out the kinks. We have to create an environment that enables people to make decisions and rewards them even if they're wrong because they're learning lessons.
All right, so we're pulling back the curtain, kind of rewinding back to the origin story of SalesAi, and at the very beginning of the company and the product itself, what did you see from the founder's seat in the market from a product perspective? What led to the creation of SalesAi?
Yeah, so we actually heard the signal directly from our customers. So we were hearing consistently, we had a former lead generation company, and we were hearing consistently, I've got leads, this is great, but we still had dissatisfied customers, and they simply wanted meetings on the calendar. They wanted the end result. They didn't want to do the work from the lead to the actual appointment booked. They felt that if they could talk to people, they could sell their product or their product or service, and they were having a hard time after they had the leads actually bridging the gap and getting the first conversation had. And so we had heard that consistently over the course of a few years, and we really understood where the technology was developing from a AI standpoint. And so we decided that we understood that the technology was going to have to be able to take the next step for customers. And so during that process, we knew we wanted to build something better. So we decided to sell off that platform and really create a brand new business, which is SalesAi. And at the time, there wasn't any technology out in the market that really solved the problem that we were looking to solve. And we had tested that. We had put together some different prototypes of our own. We had put together multiple different systems. There was a time when we were out trying to really validate the use case of what we were trying to do with new technology, and we were putting together 4, 5, 6 different pieces of software, ultimately trying to automatically book a meeting for a user. And as janky and troublesome as it was to actually do that and be the end user for that, we still had market validation that this is something that people would really pay for if we could work out the kinks.
So what was the gap in the market then that led to this? What did lead generation not solve? Or if somebody was trying to just go out and piecemeal together 8 different tools to try to get to the same outcome, what did the product itself kind of bridge at the core for customers and for the early versions of SalesAi?
Yeah, there's multiple different pieces of technology that you can use automation, like marketing automation, phone dialers. You could do a lot of things to streamline, approaching contacts, and there's all kinds of lead gen services. But actually putting together something where it didn't require a human to navigate those conversations, a human to sit for 5-6 hours of their day and make 300-400 dials through a parallel dialer or something like that, or spend another 4 hours a day on LinkedIn or in email trying to prospect. They were truly looking for ways that they could simplify their workflow where they didn't have to spend significant human hours to go and solve that problem. And so that's really what we were out to tackle. And when we first started to iterate, it was a very clunky process, right? And so if you were very technical and you really knew a lot of the tools early on in AI, you could probably stitch together something that may be some type of an effective chatbot. But ultimately, it was buggy for one, but two, the caliber of the technical competency that you need to go and do that effectively, most people didn't have that then, and even today they don't have that now, whether it's using 4 or 5 different tools or even using one. And so we really set out to the fact that, okay, we knew we validated the market that this is what they want. We know that the technical and complicated nature of what we had wasn't going to be user friendly. And so that's really when we started to come with the mission statement of making AI simple, easy, and effective, right? Like they want the end outcome, but it has to be done in a way that meets the users where they're at.
So oftentimes, especially in this world of AI where people are trying to AI everything, like let's just throw AI into the middle of it. And not everyone in the market fully even understands what AI is.
Yeah.
Ironically. So what were some of the unexpected learnings along the way of we drop AI into this? What were the big learnings that you didn't anticipate hearing?
Yeah. So the first one was that our users really thought AI would do everything for you, right?
Yeah.
Like, we even had a story early on where we had a customer sign up and the next day they let go of their entire sales and support team. And we told them that was a bad move, and he learned very quickly, like the technology isn't in a place where it truly can replace humans, right? And that was one of the big lessons that we had to figure out, that we are so early that we have to continue to educate the market along the way. And if we don't handle that early on in the process, like our customers are going to have wild expectations because of the concepts of what they think AI is rather than how it actually works in practice.
Yeah. So how has that influenced the positioning in the market? Like based off of what people think or assume, or they think the way they should use AI in their business. How has that changed the perspective of the market needs to understand this one thing or these two things when it comes to implementing AI?
Yeah. So it's really focusing on, businesses do it different ways, right? There's a lot of large enterprise marketing that really focuses on like a simple marketing message that maybe elevates the concept and idea of what AI can actually do. So we're really focusing on taking a step back and like really saying, hey, we're not going to lean into the hype of AI, right? AI is a very, very effective tool, and it is what makes us great today in terms of our technology, but we're really leaning into the reality of what it takes to effectively implement AI within your business. And it's very similar in terms of how you have to approach the problem from any other marketing automation that has existed previously. A lot of people think that since it's AI, you don't have to go through all the steps around having process and systems and human checks in place. And so it's really training and educating on, hey, this is the reality. It still is technology. It's still a system. It still requires a human to implement this and effectively onboard it as new technology. And it still takes work. It's not a magic wand. It's not a magic pill. It can be very, very effective, but you have to approach it the right way.
One of the things that happens along the way in the startup, right? Like you're just figuring stuff out as you go. It feels like with the team, figuring it out for yourself and figuring it out with customers. And I remember a quote that I read one time. I was like, if customers could just tell us what they want, then we can throw AI right in the middle and it'll handle everything. And it was just like laughable, right? We're like, okay, it's like a three-way street. It's us, our team, the customers. So with that kind of context in mind, like what were the biggest challenges, like the big, hairy, like ugly hairballs along the way that you've learned, personally and with the team?
Yeah, there was times where we were validating what the direction that we were going, and we were getting that positive feedback that the customers were telling us, yes, hey, I want this. But then they're also pretty pissed off because we weren't able to really deliver it, right? And so, especially like early on in the world of AI, right? It's completely different because it's non-deterministic, right? Like we're used to a world of, straight workflows. It's yes, no, and very clear. Leveraging AI, it's not. And so going through some of that and like actually getting hands on with that technology, we learned a lot. We really learned what not to do, and that was the start of the journey of SalesAi. Was a lot of mistakes, a lot of hearing things that weren't working, but on the other end of that, we were still being validated, like that the customers want it and they hung with us, right? Like, and that's another lesson that I learned throughout that process is if you go out of your way to satisfy a customer, even if you fail, and you're honest with them, you're open with them, and you're transparent, like a lot of times they give you grace. They'll ride with you along the way if as long as they believe and truly want what you're looking to deliver.
Yeah, that makes sense. My mind went towards another, recent history, right? And even when we listen to customers and exactly what they want, there are also lessons learned that like maybe that's not the thing we should do. So, you and I have had the luxury of talking about this and working hand in hand on cold calling.
Yeah.
Cold calling. We love AI cold calling. Mm-hmm. So what were the influences around that decision, and what did you see and kind of hear relative to what does it mean for revenue and what does this mean for humans, right? Like what do we want humanity to benefit from with SalesAi?
Yeah, and that was another scenario where we were listening to our customers and what they wanted, and so we, early on we were like, all right, like let's do this. And along the way, there's a couple things, right? So the very first being, and the one that was in front of our face is the cold calling leveraging AI. It just wasn't effective, right? And so like, yes, we had customers coming in wanting it, paying us for it, but we weren't able to deliver results, right? And part of that is the nature of cold calling in general, right? Like the success rate on cold calling is incredibly low and continues to decline every single day. Yeah. And the other component is, of course, AI is a new technology in general, and having a cold call with an AI agent, like that's something that people, they don't want cold calls anyway. And then what usually works on a cold call is like the human element. You have to catch them with something, right? Something that like catches them off guard, makes them laugh, and okay, I'll listen to your pitch. And, AI, like you can do that with AI, but you miss like the human connection piece of that. And so long story short, we were like it just wasn't effective, and we knew like that was a smell, right? Like the revenue didn't show it yet, but like we knew those customers probably weren't going to last a long time, right? And so we had a decision to make as a business on what's most effective for the business. But on the other end of that, thinking about being one of the first companies in a space and really defining our legacy of who we are, what we do, and having a brand that people rally around and, ultimately does good things for humanity. And thinking about, cold calling in general, it's, there's very negative connotation with it. And on top of that, like AI cold calling, probably even more negative connotation that we were thinking about early in the time. And, that we started to, hear people in the market talking about this a little bit. And as soon as like we started to understand like, hey, really like our technology, like if it's being used for cold calling, it's actually misuse. Right. And so it did take us a little bit of time to really form that opinion. But once we had that opinion, we decided to get away from cold calling use cases. And again, it's not effective, but at the end of the day, like we want to build a product and a legacy that has ultimately positive impact that people look at in a positive way in a general sense.
So that reminds me of a conversation we had about who is the AI, the product that we're bringing, like who is it for? Because I remember an existential kind of question, and it first came up in an interview loop. Mm-hmm. And this was with a product manager, I believe, in the role. And who is AI for? Is it for the businesses or like who?
Yeah.
Who are we ultimately building this for, and who do you think of as the end consumer?
Yeah, it was about 9 months ago when it really started to click, right? Like we had this whole time been thinking about our platform in the lens of the businesses that we serve, right? Like that's our customer. We have to, do good things for them, make them happy so they pay us.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like the person that's actually interacting with the end product is our customer's customer or our customer's prospects, whoever they're leveraging our technology to engage with. Ultimately, we benefit if that person has a good experience. And so that was another thing that we were looking at in terms of, okay, that person, are they going to enjoy an AI cold call? Probably not. And if they don't enjoy an AI cold call, and all of a sudden AI cold calling is an incredibly popular thing, and that's a massive use case, well, one, people are going to stop picking up the phones, period, right? And they'll go straight to messaging for everything. But two, that's going to stain what is possible with our product. There are so many incredible use cases that our platform can create, end user delight for, and cold calling is simply not one of them.
Yeah, that makes sense. And product aside, right? Like this journey has been, all right, AI, who it's for, what product are we building? But the biggest challenge, like in startups, is the company itself. Mm-hmm. Like you got to build. Sometimes you're dealing with like an unstoppable force of your customers, but then the immovable object of your people. And a lot of people just get it wrong when they're like, trying to marry that up together to build a great product, but also a great company of people that just get it, right? And like rally around the core values of who we are and what we want to be and who we aspire to be and who you aspire to be as a leader and founder. So tell me about the people challenges. I'm sure it was all easy, right?
No, the people part. People tell you when you they don't tell you when you create a company like you're just gonna become a glorified people manager. Like that's what I figured out. Like my job is a lot of things, but it's predominantly managing and organizing human energy, right? Like we're so capable of so many things, but in large groups things fray very fast, and people are passionate about a lot of different things, and there's a lot of different opportunities that come up, and people can very, very quickly go out in all different directions. So what I've found over the course of the past few years is like the most important thing in achieving like success is organizing people all around the same thing. And so that starts with our core values and our VTO, but it also goes down to our quarterly goals and our rocks and the actual focus that we're communicating on a quarterly, monthly, weekly basis to the entire team about where our focus is, and then as a leader making sure we have the discipline to say no to everything else. Over the course of a quarter or a month or a week, whatever time period, a single day, there are so many opportunities that cross our face that are looking really good, right? There's so many things that we could go out and do and probably have a lot of really good success with. But the thing that you have to fundamentally be the best at is one thing, right? Mm-hmm. And organizing that focus and directing all the human energy into accomplishing that one thing is how you effectively create a great organization.
So you talk a lot about systems. Like if I've heard you talk, I think you use a system probably once every third sentence at most. Yeah. And so you use the phrases, the acronyms VTO, and the phrases like our rocks and quarterly plannings, and those are tied to EOS, right? And so I came from a place that had EOS a couple of orgs ago, and the way that we ran an L10 meeting was like, okay, right? It was like get through the motions, but we kind of ran like more OKRs traditionally. So tell me about what was the decision that led to, okay, we're going to implement EOS and really embody it, because that runs the organization. And so why
Yeah.
EOS, and how'd you come across
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, I actually we kind of stumbled into it through different relationships that we had over the years. And when we first implemented EOS, it was maybe give us a strong C minus, and we used it probably similar in the way that you had in your past. Um, and it was effective and to some degree, right?
Yeah.
And that's back when we had a much smaller manageable company of 20 25 employees. And um, so it the need to have that foundation, it was there, and we were very young and immature. But as we started to develop and grow and realize, like, okay, we have a lot of seats that we need to fill with great people. We have to have a landing pad and a foundation and stability for them to come into, that we can organize that human energy around. If you don't have structure in place, there's nothing for someone to come in and clean onto, right? I remember some of my early jobs and early in my career, and there was no onboarding, there was no training, and I'm like, I think of myself as a pretty capable guy. I can do great things, but like, if I don't know where to, just starting think about it like a new employee. If I come in and I kind of know I know what I'm supposed to do, kind of, but like, I don't have like the structure and the rituals to clean onto. That's going to create immediately just a degree or a percentage of uncertainty on what I should be doing, how I should be doing it.
Yeah.
And so as we started to add on headcount, like, I realized that it was absolutely critical to make sure that we were doing this right. And at that point, we started to implement, system and foundation. It's not about overdoing or over perfecting the actual process. It's about creating a backbone and stability and structure that the organization can fill into and make it their own.
Yeah. So we've wrestled in the conversations of like right people and right seat, which is like core in EOS. But there are two things that people struggle with sometimes. Like, one is you have so much structure that great people end up feeling confined and they don't do their best work because they get swept into a system. And then on the other hand, you have great people that just break glass and they don't care. They're just going to go, they're going to do whatever it takes and get it done. And so how did bringing founder mode, and like now SI mode is what we call it at SalesAi, but how do you find the middle ground, and like what were the lessons learned on finding great people, having great systems, but maintaining really the personality and speed of a startup?
How we learned this is we went too far, right? So as I mentioned, we were C minus, early on, and then we may have been an A plus 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 for a moment. And any EOS coach that heard me say that would tell me I was wrong. But we went to the playbook to a T, and we were doing it so perfectly, and that was great to a degree, but realizing in that moment, we had accidentally created so much structure and a lot of process around all of this, to the point where it didn't allow our team to use their unique abilities and their human intelligence and exceptionalism. So really we understood, like, we had to swing that back a little bit, right? And so that comes into the founder mode mindset, right? When we talk about founder mode, like founders' ownership of problems, a founder is going to take care of the problem, whether that sits, in their core competencies, in their role or not, right? They're going to be able to not only just approach and tackle the problem, they're out looking and identifying problems. And there's a way to do this where the structure doesn't inhibit it, right? And it's creating the structure in a way that allows your team members to have that freedom and that ownership to solve problems. It's making sure that you don't have every single item as an escalation item that their manager or leader has to approve. It's making sure that each individual has the right zones in terms of their decision-making process. And that's something that should be discussed on a quarterly basis and focus on expanding that person over time, because ultimately that's what you brought them in for, right? We bring in great people and we want to enable them to do more and more and more. You have to give them the tools to success. And that is the US structure. You're more so providing the tools, providing the framework that helps create that structure they can cling onto and grow further, rather than using the structure to confine individual employees.
Yeah. So how do you scale that founder mentality? Because everyone is an intrinsically a founder, and some people call it the founder gene, or it's this intrinsic nature, and a lot of times it is. But for the average person that just wants to come in and look at the core values and look at what it means to be in founder mode or SAI mode, how do you think about enabling people to do that without sending a message that's like, it just means being scrappier or do more with less, but like, this is how we do this, and how to actually embody that, even if you might not be a founder yourself.
Yeah, it starts with mindset and like culture throughout the entire company. A lot of organizations, people are joining because they want a job, right? And they may want a traditional career, and those can be very good things for a lot of people. So that's ultimately different than the culture that you're building in a startup. In a startup, you have to have the mindset that you're coming in and you're probably going to do 20 other things that you never talked about in your interview process, and you never realized were going to be in your job description, and probably things that you've never even done before, ever even thought about doing. And so, early on in the interview process, like when you're bringing in new individuals, it's having an open dialogue, because that type of environment is not for everyone. So really making sure that you have the right expectations coming in for new hires, new candidates. So that's one piece. And the other piece within the existing organization, it's really focusing leadership and management and all the way through, just having open dialogue and open conversations about what that really means. It's not, hey, just do more because a founder would do it, right? It's really focused on making sure that each individual in our organization is enabled to do those things, enabled and confident that they're not going to get their hand slapped if they make a mistake, right? I've seen teams and organizations be scared to speak up. I've seen them scared to make decisions. No one will make a call because they don't really know, what the consequences are going to be. And that's a terrible, terrible culture. That's a terrible place to be. We have to create an environment that enables people to make decisions and rewards them even if they're wrong, because they're learning lessons.
Yeah. So if it's day one, SalesAi starts all over again today, what would you have done different? Knowing what you know now, if you just, hey, we're launching it today, we have this cool new idea to launch voice AI agents that are omni-channel and can access different tools, what would you do differently?
Yeah.
What would you build today?
Yeah. There's a lot of lessons in there that would have helped us get to where we're at today, maybe a year and a half ago. I would have narrowed the focus down to the most important thing day one, and I would have focused on the core of who we are from a product standpoint, but also as an organization standpoint. We got distracted over the course of, I wouldn't even call it distracted. Everything we focused on was tangentially related, and if you thought about it, it really could move us forward. But there were opportunities that were maybe just one step outside of the core of who we are and what we were focusing on. And so, if I had to redo it all over again, I would have focused exclusively on the core of our platform and the core of our team.
And when it comes down to the core of the team, how do you build the team, right? I'm looking at the next hire. thinking about the next hire, do I hire? How do you think about the core of the team?
Yeah, every hire should be more effective than the hire before. The most recent hire should be the best person in your organization every single time. And so it's consistently raising the bar. And what that does is it's going to consistently make the whole team better, right? And it's really focusing on not solving problems with people, but making sure that fundamentally you have the right person coming in that fits the culture, fits the drive, the founder's mindset, and ultimately has the capability to do what you need them to do.
Makes sense. So, on a totally different note, different topic, because this is just how we just do stuff here.
Yeah.
Right. We're like, hey,
Yeah.
I saw other
Gotta
cool,
pivot.
really cool thing.
Yeah. Shiny object.
As we're thinking about like building, building building and leveraging technology today, how does SalesAi stay on the forefront of evolving technology? Like making sure we're not just heads down. This is our product. This is our people, and lose sight of like how fast the technology moves. So, what does that look like in SalesAi and a day in the life of Sterling, and then how you push people to keep that at the core of what we do?
Yeah. So there's a couple ways that I think about this in. One, it's fundamentally thinking differently. Very often you see markets, and there's new markets that emerge, and companies that pop up, and very quickly they start to look like each other fast, right? And when everyone's going left, I think about how can we go right? Right? And so just thinking about problems in a unique way and from first principles is how I make sure that we don't look like just the rest of the market, and we consistently have differentiation. The other thing is there's a lot of adjacent technologies in our space that could supplement what we're doing. And so making sure that as other technologies around us rise, we're able to partner with them in different ways and benefit from that same type of explosive growth, and make sure that at the end of the day our users experience that same direct benefit.
Yeah. All right. So how about CloudBot? Does CloudBot replace? Is that our new next and greatest hire for the entire org? Or how do you feel about CloudBot?
The claw is the master. The claw is our leader.
It is.
Have you ever seen Toy Story, where you have those little aliens, and and Buzz Lightyear jumps in, he says, "Who's in charge here? Who's in charge here?" And then all the little guys go, "The claw," and look up to the claw. That's 2020. What are we? 2026. 2026. That's January 6th, 2026. The claw is the leader. So, no, I think it's really interesting, right? It's a concept that internally we've actually talked about quite a bit. Is the technology is going to continue to grow where you have to have access to systems, right? Yeah. Like for agents to step to the next level of their growth, they have to be able to know your Google login. They have to know your HubSpot login. They have to know all the systems that you're using. They have to actually be able to work and configure in the system as if you were sitting there doing it yourself. Yeah. Right. And so it's a really interesting time. There's a lot of security issues and just access control issues. Like, you could give them that information, and then all of a sudden they're in your Bitcoin wallet, right? And then so like you got to be very, very careful with that type of technology. But I think what it does is it opens really the minds of everyone in terms of what's possible. Mm-hmm. I saw Sam Altman talking about a concept that, like, fundamentally this type of technology makes every company an API company, right? Yeah. Like they all have to have an API, right? And because the agent's going to have to call on all of these different types of tools and technologies. So it's a really exciting time, and again, it's a situation that makes you think differently. Yeah.
How do you think that fits in with SalesAi? Is there a world where agents are just working with other agents from other companies, and they're all talking to each other, and they've locked us out,
talking to each other on Moltbot?
That's right.
Yeah. Moltbook.
They're going to be having physical conversations and phone conversations, and then posting on Moltbook. What does that look like? You know, what's the world look like in 3 years from now?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. You know, sometimes I think that I don't have a fully formed opinion on it quite yet, but sometimes I think that ultimately it's going to continue to bifurcate, right? Like, there's a digital world that white collar workers have created, and that's the world they've lived in, and what I'm seeing is a lot of that white collar type of work, staring at the screen all day, is going to move into agentic work, where there's going to be a whole agentic ecosystem where a lot of the work that we are doing on the computer directly is going to be handled, right? There's going to be orchestrators, and there's going to be strategic decision making, and there's going to be a lot of work around this environment to make it conducive and effective. But a lot of this part of the economy will start to take off on its own, and it will be about how we can manage it. And then on the other side of things, there's going to be a lot of people that lean harder and harder into the physical and real world. And we've already seen this, you know, post-COVID and everything like that. Like, people are looking to get away from technology into human events and everything like that. And I see that we're just really early for that bifurcation happening, and it being a pretty distinct split. If you think about, you know, how Zuckerberg was thinking about metaverse, you know, I see like a metaverse world versus a real world. And in that situation, you know, maybe those two play nicely, maybe it could get really weird. So
my house in metaverse is way sicker than mine in real life, but it's fine. I'm not bitter. Yeah. So if I were like a student, right? I'm fresh out of college. I thought I was going to go out. The world is like, it's fundamentally different, right? Like, I think about what you and I had to do, you know, and we were part of the last cutoffs of like the last two generations that we learned by picking up the phone and setting appointments, doing the SDR work. We learned from going in and hand keying every single LinkedIn connection request and every email, and we'd have to hand verify if we get bounced back. Like, we had to learn a lot of those hard skills to do what we do today, because we have all that experience and context. But knowing with how the world is going today, like, what if I'm a student that's graduating and I'm not, that role's kind of become irrelevant. I'm not going to be a data entry specialist. SDR is kind of compressing. Customer service, a lot of this is seeing a lot of compression. So where does somebody start to go and learn to be an orchestrator? Like, how do I get in and stay with the wave instead of going after these jobs that don't exist but have evolved?
Yeah. If I was a student today, I would be going deep into the technology. I would spend every waking hour that I can going deeper to understand how to leverage it, how people are using it within businesses, and ultimately how can I train myself through the technology, GPT learning mode, or you know, whatever, choose your LLM, and just study as much as you can. What I would actually do first is I would research the market and really understand where I wanted to go. I would reach out to that company and I would ask them to essentially sponsor like a self-education course. And this is coming out of high school, right? Sponsor a self-education course over the course of 6 months to a year to fit a role that they think they're going to need within that time frame. And so you can get actually private businesses will actually pay for individuals to self-educate rather than having to go to a 4-year university to get a traditional degree, where a lot of these skills are just, they're not being sought after in the marketplace today.
Ryan's, we have the story of Bill Gates, where he like in high school at the time, he wouldn't sleep, right? He would like go to school, go into the computer lab, he would write code because there wasn't really a playbook for it. And he was just figuring it out in the technology. He would code, and then he'd go home, and then go to bed, wait for everybody to sleep. He'd sneak out of his room, go back to the school, code all night, fall asleep, and then wake up at the school, and then he just kept going, and that's all he did. Is that the best way to learn the technology? Should you read all of the documentation, or is it Is this read and then try, or is it ship and iterate?
Yeah, you just got to get it hands on, right? Like, I made this mistake early on. I love podcasts, I love audiobooks, I love reading, I love learning via video, YouTube University, love that, right?
Yeah.
But until you're hands on, it doesn't really click, right?
Yeah.
You're not truly gonna get it like you know it inside and out until you're actually hands on using it. Yes, use your resources, get direction from training resources, blogs, podcasts, whatever it may be, but you have to get hands on. You have to use the technology. You have to think about it. That's another thing that people fail to do. You have to take a step back at times and just think about what is actually happening, and especially with the growth of all the technology, thinking about where this technology continues to grow and develop, and from a skill set standpoint, what are the most important things that you need to be able to actually do with this type of technology?
Yeah. That makes sense. I mean, like, that's founder mode, right?
Yeah.
Get in,
Yeah.
get as close to the work as possible, and learn.
Yeah.
So, what does that mean now in SalesAi? How's that influenced how you work within the team, and like, how has that evolved and applied to the team today?
Yeah. Time is a constraint that has forced us to think fundamentally different.
Yeah.
Right? Back, I didn't experience this, but my assumption is, 10, 50, 100 years ago in business, it was about precision, right? Like you had to get things very right. Whereas today, there's a lot more, consumer and customer flexibility and understanding to a degree of imperfection, but speed trumps precision in the market today. So it's shipping and iterating, like you said. It's getting things out and testing and learning from lived experience rather than spending the time to get the exact thing precisely accurate.
Yeah, that makes sense. So day one of SalesAi, day one for anyone who's founding an AI company, day one for anybody who's just getting used to the technology. If I'm hearing you right, it's get your hands in the dirt.
You gotta go.
Get moving.
Yeah, you gotta get to the Gemba, the Toyota way. You gotta be in the work. A lot of people think running a business is, some high level, philosophical thing like you sit on top and just, you orchestrate all these things, but that doesn't work anymore. It doesn't. And you have to be deep into the weeds. You have to understand your product, your service, your customers. You have to understand how you're going to market. And fundamentally, it revolves around you.
Yeah. There you have it, folks. Starts with you. Ship, iterate, hands in the dirt. What it means to start a company or just think like a founder. Start, ship, and iterate, and grow.